You know, I play way too many video games, and the amount of my miserable life I've wasted on these silly things is already pretty insane. So in this inaugural series for my 4-minute reviews, I'm starting with a classic, and that is Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy 1. Now, this is the remastered version featured in the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster released back in 2021. So needless to say, Square added a variety of quality of life features that made this game and the other 5 way more approachable and way more playable and less of a headache than the original NES or Famicom versions used to be. But we have to remember that the source material is from 1987, which was even before I was born, so you can't realistically expect a game of this caliber to be too advanced. So in that respect, this game definitely has some leftover bad design from a bygone era that most modern games have done away with, and for many years at that as well. Some obvious examples of this are how the lava tiles in Mount Gulag, for example, or the ice tiles in the Cavern of Ice dungeons damage your party as you're traversing them throughout the floors. Speaking of your party, Final Fantasy I clearly drew inspiration from the tabletop gamebooks of old, most notably Dungeons & Dragons, and similarly here you get to choose your own adventure by building your 4-member party with archetypes that are all pretty well known by now, right? Like warrior, black mage, white mage, but there's other classes such as monk, which it's pretty funny when you consider that his job is to be as nude as possible in order to maximize his damage. You also have classes like the Red Mage, which is one of my all-time favorite Final Fantasy classes, but here in Final Fantasy I, he's really only good in a couple different spots and is really kind of middling everywhere else, and it's probably not until Final Fantasy V where I say that the Red Mage becomes good for all or most of the game, but honestly, otherwise, building your team, you really can't go wrong with the classic setup of tank, DPS, and healer, or what that would look like here is a warrior, a monk for physical DPS, black mage for magical DPS, and a white mage for healing. But for me, I had a team of Aeneas the warrior, Luke the monk, Glitz the red mage, and Ruckus the black mage, and my team carried me throughout the whole game, and we had a great time. In terms of the story, honestly, there's not a whole lot to say. By our modern standards, it's very basic and can simply be boiled down to 4 chosen heroes go on a quest to defeat all the evil monsters and free and save the world. But again, this was made in the 1980s, so a story of that caliber is more than sufficient for video games from that era. And even after all these years later, I still say the story is serviceable enough. Turning to gameplay, I mean, it's a basic JRPG, and if you already know where to go and what to do, the game can be completed in about 10 to 12 hours easily, and it's even faster if you use any of the Pixel Remaster's optional XP or Gil boosts, which I think are actually good and useful here. Maybe not necessarily the 4X one because that's excessive and trivializes the game, but the 2X made the game easy enough that the game isn't as punishing as a lot of these older games tend to be. But I wish there was maybe like a 1.5x because that would have been like the happy medium, but oh well, the 2x is fine. On the topic of value for this game, you have to remember that it, along with the remasters 2 through 6, are included in the Pixel Remaster compilation, which generally retails for about $75 before tax, and it was priced at that before the massive and widespread video game price hike that occurred in 2025, which should be its own topic and own video, but nevertheless, if you take the whole value of that $75 figure, divide it by each game, so divide it by 6, each game's about $12.50 more or less, which I think is fair. It's probably a little bit on the higher end considering how old and limited these games are, but what can you do? That's Square Enix for you. So, in all seriousness, for me, Final Fantasy I in the Pixel Remaster, it's a solid 2D remaster of the original game, and I believe any gamer worth their salt who cares about video game history, the classics, or how a lot of modern or even pre-modern games derived a lot of their influences from these older games, this is definitely something that a gamer should pick up and play at least once. So, in the end, for me, Final Fantasy I on the Pixel Remastered gets a solid B, B+. We'll see you on the next one, and I'll give you 2 guesses as to which game it is.